You're watching Last Minute Laura. Hey, don't forget to subscribe.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to try and make a cropped pullover. So I'm just drawing out kind of what I think I want for it. So I'm thinking I want it to be a little bit baggy, I want some stripes on it, and I want it to be cropped. And the important points for me is that it's baggy, cropped, has short sleeves, that there's some ribbing on the neck, the waist, and the cuffs, and the stripes. So I'm going to use a couple of really pretty colors that I'm going to show you now. This is Briggs & Little Sport Weight yarn, wool yarn, and I'm using the colors rose, teal blue, and also gold, my favorite one. So you can see how pretty these three look together, and that's kind of my plan for this sweater, is to use all three. So I already made one of the body pieces just to figure out the pattern, and I'm going to make the second one on camera. So first you begin by chaining 75. So in the video I actually chain a few more than 75. I don't know why, but when I was counting back I realized it, so I just stopped my double crochets at 75. So you chain 75, turn around, double crochet in the fourth chain from the hook, and then double crochet across. So do as I say, not as I do. Chain 75. And I'm just showing you here how I do my double crochets into my chain stitch. I just take up one loop, and then complete a double crochet. So this is going to be the bottom of the waistband of the pullover. And basically that double crochet row is just setting us up to create the rib stitch that we're going to do in the following row. Okay, so here we are coming up on the end of the row, and as you can see I'm skipping a whole bunch of those chains just because I chained more than 75. So at the end of your row, chain 2 and turn, and then we're going to start front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So this is the most simple like rib stitch pattern for sweaters. The front post double crochet, basically you're inserting your hook behind the entire post of the previous double crochet stitch. You're not going into a stitch, you're going around and behind it. And then for the back post, you're doing the same thing basically in reverse. So if this doesn't make any sense how I'm explaining it, I have a whole tutorial that I do it slowly and with nice explanations and very, very clear footage. So you can check that out. I'll link it in the description so you can find it. But basically this whole rib pattern, the first row we're going to do front post, back post, front post, back post. And when we come to the end, I'm just showing you here how I finish my row. There's one stitch left at the end that isn't a posted double crochet, it's just a regular double crochet. And then I chain 2 and turn around. And now the pattern reverses. So before we did front post, back post, now we're going to do back post. So you can see the first one I'm doing here is a back post double crochet, and then the next one will be a front post. And that's just going to continue the rib pattern that we established in that first row. After we finish this row, the following row will work up the same way as the first row. So basically it's a pattern of 2, like 1 row, 2 rows, 1 row, 2 row. But again, I have the link in my video description for you, so that if this doesn't make any sense and you want to learn how to do the actual rib stitch, just the rib stitch, I have a whole video on it. But I am going to do 5 rows total, and I end on a wrong side. So right now what I'm working on is the wrong side. Basically I'm looking at the back of the fabric as I work, and the front of the fabric is facing out to the world. So you want to be finishing on a side like this. The reason being is the color changes show up prettier when you finish on a wrong side, as far as I understand, based on what I've made. So finish on a wrong side after 5 rows. So this is what it looks like after you've done 5 rows. And I switched to the rows here, and I'm zooming through it because all I'm doing is a half double crochet in each stitch across. There's no magic here, just half double crochet all the way across. The next row is where we're going to do a little bit of expanding, because this right now would be too narrow as a pullover, but it's the right width for around my waist, but I need to get my shoulders and my rib cage in, so I have to basically do a couple of increases on this next row. So how I'm doing that, I'm putting 1 half double crochet as the first stitch and then another in that same stitch. Then the next stitch, just 1 half double crochet. And I'm showing you the other one here so you can see me trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Basically, the pattern for this next row is just 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, 1 in the next. So basically every other stitch you're putting 2 half double crochets in all the way across. And that's going to, on half of our stitches, it's going to double them. So we're going to have way wider, a way wider body. If you wanted it to be crazy baggy, you could do 2 half double crochets in each stitch across. If you want something that's really, really fitted, you could do it 1 half double crochet, 1 half double crochet, and then 2 half double crochets in the third stitch every third. Basically, you can manipulate this just by deciding how much you want to expand it or not. I have a pattern coming out soon that that's so baggy, so I did 2 half doubles in each stitch for this next pattern coming up, and it really comes out super cool, so tune in for that one. Probably by the end of the month. I just have to edit it. Okay, so I'm still working in the pink, because as you can see by the sample that's finished on up to the top left there, I do 5 rows of the rose, and then 1 row of the blue, and then 4 rows of the rose, and then 2 rows of the blue, and then 3 of the, I'm going to call it pink, 3 of the pink, 3 of the blue, 2 of the pink, 4 of the blue, 1 of the pink, 5 of the blue. And that basically gives us that nice gradient you can see. It's not a gradient, but you know what I mean. It turns us from pink to blue. So right now I'm just zooming through. There's no more increases, just that 1 row. After that, I keep everything the same all the way up. And basically what I'm going to just do is just half double crochets. I'm going to do the pink, switch to the blue now because I've finished 5 here. And then I'm going to switch back to the pink after this row and just complete that pattern pretty much until we get to the height that we want the sweater. So if you're not doing color work, you can just half double crochet here all the way up. If you're doing some other kind of color work, you could do whatever you want. You could do block colors. It's just you keep half double crocheting until the sweater is as long as you want it when you hold it up to your body. Here I'm just showing you how I cover up the yarn from the color change. Then just half double crocheting across at 1,000 times speed. I will say if I would make this sweater again, I think that I would probably make the sleeves a little bit wider. The body was super perfect in terms of its sizing, but I found that after I blocked it and washed it a second time, I had a little bit of shrinkage. So I'm sure I could fix that with the blocking again, but I would say I'm always a fan of baggy, so this one is a fitted looking sort of pullover. Also, don't come for me for how I change my wool colors here. Aren't these colors so pretty together? I thought that it looked kind of like an autumn sunset, but while I was making it, I was getting serious Cheshire Cat vibes. I just thought it was really... and I didn't even mean to pick the colors that way. I just picked a bunch of colors that I liked and ordered them. But I love this yarn. I'm definitely ordering more of the gold. I think that I love the teal blue, but there's so many colors that I love equally to it. But that gold, oh my goodness, it's so pretty. I want to have a whole sweater in it. I've seen this pattern on Instagram that's a knitter's pattern, and she made it like honeycomb around the chest portion. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I need it. But in honey gold, and this gold is so pretty. I think it would be really pretty for something honeycomb themed. And then the rose, of course, is beautiful because it's like this, I don't even know, it's like super saturated millennial pink or something. Also, please excuse the camera strap making its way into this portion. So I'm not sponsored by or affiliated with Briggs & Little, but they are a Canadian brand, which I love. They're also the oldest Canadian wool brand that makes the wool the way that they do, which I think is super cool. And also it's run by like people. Like if you reach out to them via email, it's like one of the main people will reply to you. They don't have like hundreds and hundreds of like, you're not a number, you're a real person when you like deal with them. Also, they're available on Yarn Canada, which, I mean, I get a lot of my yarn there just because it's easy and the shipping's cheap. But anyway, if you are looking for wool, I do recommend Briggs & Little. Again, I'm not being paid by them. I just really, it feels weird saying it because it sounds like I'm like advertising for them, but I really do like the wool, so I'm happy to advertise for them, ? Although Briggs & Little, if you would like, you are more than welcome to give me money for saying how awesome you are. That being said, I'll probably still just keep saying it because I really do like this yarn. My new thing is wool. I used to be like cotton all the way, cotton, but now I am so in love with the idea of wool, with the feeling of wool, with the insane warmth of wool. Like this pullover is thin. You can see how thin this yarn is as I'm finishing up the body piece right now. But it was warm. Like it must have only been 10 degrees outside and I wore this pullover with a dress and I was like very comfortably warm. All right, so there's my body pieces. Very happy to have those done. I'm just gonna give them a little measurement to let you know kind of how big it is when I make it, or what this pullover is supposed to be to make it like mine, I guess. So it's super wide up at the shoulders, shoulder side, 34 inches wide, which is okay though because that's actually part of the sleeve too. The bottom's much smaller. Each side is only, I believe it's 16. As I voice over this, is it 16? Yes, okay. It's 16 inches at the waist because there's going to be two pieces, so 16 and 16, 32. And then it's 12 inches high. So if you measure from the top part of your shoulder down, you can kind of determine how long you want the pullover to be. I just wanted it cropped, so 12 inches brings it below my boob, around the skinniest part of my waist, which is what I was going for. Now I'm gonna get myself all set up again, make it look super cute in here. Beautiful. And now I'm gonna get started on the sleeves because we need to make two sleeves and two body pieces. Pretty much every sweater is that, just you make variations on the shapes of the sleeves and body pieces, but if you think about it, every sweater is just basically four squares. So this is the sleeve that I made off camera as I tried to figure it out. I wanted something kind of fitted that still flared a little into the body piece. And I'm going to start again with the gold because I did the gold for the bottom of the bodies that way. I'm doing the sleeve exactly the same way that I do always every single sleeve. It's a variation on the Red Heart father pullover sleeve. So that was the first sweater I ever made, and I just kind of have been modifying that sleeve ever since because it's a very basic sleeve. So 33 chains, yes, chain 33, and then double crochet into each chain across. You're starting at the 4th chain from the hook, and then the front post, back post, double crochet. Again, if I were to do this again, I would probably chain 35 or 37 instead of 33, just to bring a little bit more width to the cuff, because after I washed and blocked it, the cuffs shrank a little. It's not strangling my wrist or anything, but it's like a little more snug than I would prefer. So if you're making it and you're like a size, I don't know, 6 or 8 up top, I would say that chain 35 or 37. But yeah, this is my super basic sleeve modified. So what I'm going to do after the 5 rows of front post, back post, double crochet, I pretty much just increase every 4th row. So like 4 rows of half double crochet, 1 row increase, 4 rows half double, 1 row increase, and that's going to create that tapered effect that you saw in the sleeve that I already finished. But I'm just going to get through this ribbed part, and then I will come back and chit chat a little more. Okay, so here I am at the end of the rib part, and I'm attaching in my rows, and then I'm going to do a chain 1 and turn, and now I'm just going to half double crochet all the way across in every single stitch. And you can see, because I've slowed it down, where I'm inserting the hook into the stitch. It's not into the top of the stitch, rather I'm going through like under the whole stitch. And that just kind of makes it look really secure, and I liked it. And now I'm just doing a couple of rows of half double crochet in this, well, I'm trying to, if I could find that stitch. And then I'm going to do a chain 1 and turn again, and now you can see that in that second row I did an increase. So in the third row, no increase. So I got a little jumbled in my instructions. Basically, row 1 of the pink, you're just half double crocheting across. Row 2, you're doing 1 increase at either end, so basically 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, 2 half double crochets in the last stitch, and then after that it'll be 3 more rows of half double crochet with no increase before we do it all over again with another increase. Okay, so here's kind of where I'm figuring out how many I have to do before I do my increase, but oh no, I got it wrong. It's not every 4th one, it's every other one. So on the first row after the rib, you do just half double crochet all the way across. And then the second row, you do 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, 2 half double crochets in the last stitch. Then the following row, you just keep it regular. Then the row after that, it's an increase row. So it's every other row, you're putting 2 in the first stitch and 2 in the last stitch. That's the whole shebang. But if you want your sleeves more baggy, you can have an increase at the end of every single row, at either end of every row, or you can do an increase every 5 stitches. You could make it hugely baggy or really, really tight. It kind of depends on what you're looking for in your sleeves, but for me, apologies again that I got the instructions a little jumbled back there. Every other row, we're going to do an increase stitch at both ends. And I'm still doing the same pattern as far as the colors. I'm doing 5 rows of the pink, 1 row of the blue, 4 rows of the pink, 2 rows of the blue, 3 rows of the pink, 3 rows of the blue, 2 rows of the pink, 4 rows of the blue, and 1 row of the pink, and then 5 rows of the blue. So this is just me sort of zooming through that color work here. Still doing my increases at the end, at either end of every other row. And this is me just wrapping up that last blue stripe, which is the last piece in the puzzle before I've got to get this washed and blocked, which I will be doing between the scene you're seeing now and the scene you're going to see in a second. Okay, but you can see this how the sleeves are going to look and how they're exactly the same. And the body pieces are done. Oh, I love how this wool looks, honestly. Okay, so now everything's washed and blocked. You may see there's a bit of a different drape to the fabric. If you can't tell, it's no big deal. It's not super visible. And now is when I'm going to measure how wide I want the opening for my head to come through to be. I'm still going to do a little bit more crochet to close the hole up, but basically I'm just counting my stitches so that I use the same number of stitches on either side. And then I'll count them out on both pattern pieces, both of the pieces, and I'm just sewing them together from where I determined was the best spot. So like when you're making yours, if you want it to be a really off the shoulder pullover, you could just make the hole that's in the middle bigger. Just make sure that you use an even number of stitches on either side. I'm closing mine up with a yarn needle, a little bit more of that wool, and I'm using a blanket stitch, and then I just weave the ends in after I finish. So I'm just getting the yarn tied there. Doing the same for the other side. I'm using the blanket stitch, which I also have a tutorial for on my channel if you just search it on there. But once I get to the correct number of stitches to match it up to the other side, which again, it doesn't matter how many stitches that is. If yours is 20 stitches, do 20. If yours is 5, do 5. Whatever it feels like, however you want it to drape over the shoulder. Start with 10, then put it on, see how it looks, then do 20. I think for mine it was about 25 stitches. And then at this point I'm just doing the same thing, lining up the sleeves. As you can see, I lined up the edges so that the one edge is at where the pink meets the blue, and then at the other edge is at the same spot where the pink meets the blue. So that way the sleeves are going to be identical or symmetrical. So same thing, I'm doing the blanket stitch to attach those, and I'm going to do it on both sleeves. And then I fold the sleeves right sides together just so I can see how that's looking, and it's looking so good. So I put it back inside out, and same thing, blanket stitch again. I'm going to do blue thread for everything except for the gold cuffs, because I don't want the gold cuffs to show blue thread through them. The purple I'm not super worried because, or the pink, whatever, rose, because it's like it's not super obvious, but I think it'll show through too much with the gold because the gold is so bright and different. So this is the part I'm just kind of showing you what I do for that blanket stitch. Again, I do have a video on it, but this is just kind of to show you a little bit more up close. Of course, right when I want to do that, there's a knot in the yarn, but it's fine. Yes, so I'm blanket stitching the whole way up. Half double crochet is so easy to sew together because there is really clear visible stitches. Once you get into like double and triple, you have to shove the needle in like in between stitches, which gets a little stressful for me, but half double and single crochet are the easiest things to sew. So there she is after I have sewn the sleeves and the side bands together, and now I'm going in again up at that neck hole area, and I'm going to taper it in a little bit just to make it kind of sit on my shoulders a little bit higher rather than being an off-the-shoulder sweater. I'm just going to, at both ends, there's two ends, the front and the back, right? So where they attach is what I'm talking about at the ends. I'm basically reducing the stitches just in these corners right here and the same at the other side. And I'm reducing them like this. I will show you. So I do half double crochets, and then, am I even gonna film it? How silly. If I don't, I'm really sorry, but basically I do a crochet two together at either end of the sweater. For 2 rounds, and then on my last round I do 3 regular half doubles, or 4. 3 regular half doubles, and then I did a geez Louise, crochet 2 together stitch, a reduction stitch. Basically so every fourth stitch I was crocheting two together, and you can see I just keep going around and around, and the sweater keeps shrinking. So last but not least, I'm just going and switching back to the gold to do a rib stitch around. Once the sweater was like the right size hole for my head, I basically just did a rib stitch along the same stitches that were the blue stitches by doing one row of double crochet, and then the next row I did front post, back post, and just kept doing that in the round until I made it all the way back to the end of my sweater. And this is what we got. We got mostly blue up at the top, and then we've got the purple down at the bottom. I know it looks crazy right now, but once it's blocked, that stretches out. It doesn't look so crazy. And remember, those shoulder pieces are actually like part of the sleeve of the sweater. So once it's on, I'm just going to sew these little bits up with gold, just so that they don't show the blue thread through. And then here is the final pullover. So we went to my parents' farm and did a little photo shoot. I'm so happy with it. Honestly, you could see I made it cropped so that it's short to wear with my dresses. This is the style of dress I usually wear, so I wanted to have a cropped sweater. You can see it's nice and wide at the top, kind of boxy. I made a little matching one for my dog, Thunder. And yeah, you could see some of the detail here too, the rib at the top. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!